This is Praios and I'm a professional gambler. Today we will learn about the sickest exploit no one is talking about. I'm very excited to learn about that. This is a video from Saulo, Costa, and yeah, let's see if this is just clickbaity bullshit or if we can actually learn something in this video.
A few years ago, I was playing a session at 500 zone games on Mojo, and after a few minutes, I realized something was off. I never felt that way before, so it was a very unique feeling. As I was playing, I started to feel like I was getting disproportionately attacked when I held a weak hand. If I opened pre-flop with a weak hand, I would frequently get 3-bet.
I think he probably has a Trojan on computer, or someone find a way to.
But the same wouldn't happen when I had a strong hand. When I was 3-betting or 4-betting with weak hands, I would get re-raised and be forced to fold. That started to really tilt me. Felt like I was getting cheated somehow. I was like, what the fuck, can people see my cards? What are these super users? What the hell is going on here? Well,
I think he's just trying to build up the story and make his point. But let's see what this will culminate in.
Eventually, a few days later, I was able to understand what was going on. I was getting exploited. Once I understood how I was getting exploited, I was able to implement the exploit into my own game, and the next few weeks, I produced this graph. In this video, I'm going to tell you everything about the single greatest exploit available in online poker, which is worth thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of dollars, and yet no one is talking about it. Let's go.
I think it's about non-showdown winnings, probably, and about playing very aggressive and trying to take down pots. But let's see.
Hello friends, welcome back to the channel. My name is Saulo Costa, and here I make poker strategy simple so that you can make more money. The exploits I'm talking about are timing tail exploits. Timing tail exploits are, in my opinion, the greatest exploits in online poker, and I believe until the end.
Already skeptical a bit. Timing tails. I already talked about that, so not nobody's talking about it.
In this video, you're going to agree with me in this claim. Now, of course, there are many possible sources of information you can use to exploit your opponents other than timing information. For example, you can exploit your opponent's bet sizing patterns, you can exploit your opponent's HUD stats, and
but that has nothing to do with timing.
You can exploit your opponents by taking a look at hands that they went to showdown with. But differently than timing tail exploits, these other sources of information are not available all the time. For instance, if you want to exploit your opponent's bet size patterns on the river, you're gonna have to wait for a river situation to come up against that particular opponent to see what they're doing and to take notes on what they're doing and eventually come up with some sort of pattern that they use.
That's why some pros pay very close attention to use the same timing in every hand, like always wait like for 5 seconds and then make the decision, even if it's a very easy decision. Yeah, but obviously it's not easy to always do that, and sometimes you will just have to think more, and that's why, yeah, you cannot always stick to it. But this already would help to make exploits like this not feasible anymore, or not that feasible.
This is going to take a long time for you to have enough information. When we're talking about HUD stats, it's the same thing. In order for you to exploit a certain HUD stat on your opponent, you're gonna have to gather a lot of hand histories against that opponent. You're gonna have.
I mean, it's the same with timing tails, right? And the thing with timing tails also is, yeah, that you need to play an insane amount of attention. And yeah, that's hard to do, especially if you are like a multi-tabling regular. It's hard to see these things, these small tiny things. And also, if you pick up a thing that might be timing tail, it's just not enough if you see it once. I mean, you maybe have an idea already, but you have to confirm this idea or this possible tell at least one more time, at best a few more times. So you also have to pay attention in situations where you're not in the hand.
To play a lot of hands against that particular opponent for you to even have a HUD stat to look at and then drive some information from those stats. So it takes a lot of.
I think what really could help, which he's probably not advocating for, but a lot of good poker players nowadays are also streamers, and there it's a lot easier if you are playing regularly against this guy to pick up timing tells, because you could just watch his stream and then you know all his whole cards. In other cases, when you try to pick up timing tells, you only see his cards when it's getting to showdown. So then it would be way easier. So if you are a rec with some Twitch dude and play a lot of hands against him, this might be worth, investing your time in.
Hands. And the same thing can be said about hands that go to showdown. I think the hands that go to showdown are extremely valuable piece of information on your opponent, but it's very few hands that go to showdown. It's very few hands that go post flop, and out of the hands that go post flop, very few of those hands actually go to showdown. So you don't have access to that information all the time. When we're talking about timing tells, on the other hand, every single action that your opponent takes, they're giving you information. They're going to take some time to act. They're going to maybe take 5 seconds, 10 seconds, 15 seconds, and regardless of how much.
Yeah, also you often see that people take fake time banks when they in reality have a very easy decision to balance things out. So people are aware of this issue. But yeah, I think very good tell is, for example, when someone does something instantaneous, you could read stuff from that. Either that he had a very easy decision and does not gives a shit about his timing. He might have made up his mind already, but it's definitely a situation where he had an easy decision. Not much to think about, because if this would be otherwise, he wouldn't act instantaneous.
Time they take to make that action, they're giving you information in every single spot of the game tree. So this is
also, this could be like not that helpful if you're playing against someone who's like 8 tabling or something. Then you might read something into his timing, although he's just having a lot of other tables where he also has to make different decisions, and his timing might not have to do with the actual situation in the hand. So always keep this in mind too.
Extremely valuable in my opinion, and if you can pay attention, you can gather a lot of information on your opponents. Now, regardless of what is the reason for why timing tells are not being discussed more often in the poker community, in this video I'm gonna give you 3 pieces of evidence of why I think this is really a thing and why I think you should start using it in your game. Okay?
I mean, the advertising for this video was like some revolutionary thing which will help you to boost your win rate exponentially or something, and this is not what I thought about. And also I would have like more practical tips. So when this happens, then that is the most likely explanation for that, but gave nothing of that sort yet. So until now, this was complete useless. I mean, not complete useless, but sort of useless. Let's see if it's getting better.
Let's start with the first piece of evidence that I have, which are Time Mojo articles. So Time Mojo is or was a software company that focused on timing tell tracking. So basically, back in the day, poker sites would allow these types of softwares where Time Mojo, for example, would track the hand histories as you were playing, and not only they would track the actions in the hands, but they would also track the timings associated with each action. So imagine it would play a 3-bet.
Such software would be worth good amount of money if you would be allowed to use it.
Pot, and your opponent would make a c-bet. So Time Mojo would not only record the fact that your opponent c-bet against you, but it also record the timing that your opponent took to place that c-bet. So the software was available for a few years, but later PokerStars and other sites prohibited those types of softwares, so they're no longer available for people to use. But back in the day, Time Mojo was available, and they would be posting some information in their own website and also in their Instagram account, where they would try to attract more customers by showing their data.
Ooh, this could be a valuable piece of information.
Let's take a look at some of the data that Time Mojo would post back in those times. So here I am in Time Mojo's Instagram account. You can see that they still have 366 followers, even though the software has not been usable for many years by now. But they have this Instagram page, and right here in the bottom, you can see two posts that they made that I think are very interesting. And this is where I started my explorations with timing tells. I had a feeling that they were a thing. I started looking out in the internet, and then I saw Time Mojo, and then I came across these two posts that they made here. So the first post that they made is a study that they made at 500 Zoom, where they looked at fold to 3-bet frequency based on RFI timing. So they basically gathered a bunch of hands that they had data mined, and they separated hands where people took very quick timing to RFI, and then hands that they took a long time to RFI, and then they checked the fold to 3-bet stat in those two separate samples. You can see here the first interval that they picked was from 0 to 1.54 second, and then a second interval of 9 seconds plus with the RFI timing. So this is very interesting, and we see here some very significant discrepancies. So when people take very quick timing, so when they RFI,
that's like the thing I talked about. Someone is very quick, does not have a decision. And yeah, if you are open raising under the gun, you might have to think about it if you have like, what is the weekend in no limit hold'em. Let's say King 10 or some, yeah, King 10 is probably a fold, but yeah, no idea. You might have to think about it a bit before you open it. Or if you have a weekend from the button, you first have to look into the stats of the blinds if they fold too much and stuff. And if it's like, yeah, on the edge, if you want to open it or not, and it depends on the blinds, then it takes more time. And yeah, this could be a good indication for, yeah, putting in a light 3-bet if the guy took longer than normal.
very quickly, they only fold, at least in this data they had at the time for 500 Zoom games, people only folded 47% of the time when their RFI was...
And it's not that insane, to be honest. I mean, just 8% difference.
Very quick.
But obviously, in the long run, this will make a big difference. But like that. But honestly, if you are multi-tabling, you often will not even recognize what is going on if someone made a decision or not.
Whereas if they took a very long time to RFI, 9 seconds plus, they would fold 55% to 3-bet. So this is really significant. If these numbers are true and they can be trusted, this is a very, very huge difference, and this should be taken into account when constructing your ranges. Imagine you're facing a button open, and instead of expecting a 47% fold equity or 49% fold equity, you can expect a 55% fold equity. In this case, you could significantly expand your 3-bet range and play a looser range, play more aggressively. Now, in contrast, if you would expect a 47% fold frequency, you should adapt your 3-bet range. You should 3-bet tighter, you should 3-bet more linear, a stronger range, because you expect your opponent to continue more often. They also made a second post here where they saw the fold to 4-bet frequencies based on 3-bet timing. So same idea as before, separated two intervals and then checked the fold to 4-bet based on the 3-bet timing.
Wow. More significant. So if you snap 3-betting, he's not folding that often. Takes some time, folds a bit more often, and if it took very long to 3-bet, I mean, this makes sense. Oh, that's a cool statistic too.
We can see here that for the first interval between 0 to 4 second 3-bet, people would fold only 35% to 4-bet. Really, really sick.
By the way, it seems that these intervals are quite randomly because they were quite different, the other one. And we also don't know how big the sample is and all that stuff. So it could just be putting things together so that it looks the most nice and that they can sell the product the best. But yeah, I don't doubt that yeah, things like this happen and that you can exploit the timings of your opponent.
Whereas,
but I also think it's not, I mean, you can make some general assumptions, but often it's also hugely dependent on the opponent. But what I also recognized, if someone takes the time bank, but not for very long, I would assume, I mean, it's just anecdotally, and I don't have data to back it up, but I think then it's more likely that he has a good hand in comparison to taking his whole timing and then doing something. Because, yeah, if you take the fake time bank, you don't want to waste all the time, because your time bank, you have less timing next time when you really have a decision, so that you would just wait a few seconds and not use the whole thing, compared to a situation where you are like, oh fuck, don't know what to do. What do I do? Do I raise? Do I fold? Can I bluff here? And have all this consideration, then you might use it completely. So that's my idea of maybe a timing tell you could use in your game.
In contrast, if people took 10 seconds or more to 3-bet, they would fold 45% to 4-bet. So here you can see a 10% increase in fold equity just based on the RFI timing. So these pieces of evidence here really got me curious about timing tells, and I started implementing that into my game, which leads us to our second piece of evidence in this video, which is my own personal experience. Back in 2020, I started not only researching about timing tells, as I did and I eventually found Time Mojo, but I also decided to explore, experiment with stuff and test stuff in real time, in real games, and that's exactly what I did. And I'm gonna show you a few of the things that I was doing and also discussing with my students in my private Discord server in my staking company metagame. Okay, so let's take a look at that. So you can see here, the first time that I made a post about timing tells to my students was back in 31st of August of 2020, and I did so in my own poker journal. We have a lot of poker journals inside our Discord server for our staking company, and I had one for myself, and I would just share hands and other thoughts with my students. And here in 31st of August, I decided to share what I was doing with regards to timing tells. And you can see here that I basically said that I was experimenting with it, and I started to notice that regs were taking too long to raise pre-flop, and then I started expanding my 3-bet, 4-bet, and 5-bet ranges. And I was doing some pretty crazy stuff. I can show you guys some examples here. These are not actually the craziest ones. The craziest ones will be for later. But here you see someone opening, I 3-bet, the guy 4-bet. I just jam, ace-jack suited, the guy folds, just based on timing tell. I have pocket sevens, button opens, I 3-bet, he 4-bets me, I jam, he folds. Pocket sixes, I did the same thing, button opens, I 3-bet, he 4-bet, I jam, he folds. Ace queen off, so cutoff opens, I 3-bet, cutoff 4-bets, I jam, he folds. So
this looks like random hands he just selected to put in to show what a cool dude he is, honestly. Because yeah, these are spots where you are like, okay, I'm such a genius if it works out, and if it doesn't, you are like, oh man, what an idiot am I doing off a whole stack with this bullshit of a hand.
I was doing a lot of this stuff this time. I was experimenting a lot. So you see here, ace jack off, I opened the...
I usually probably would not do it out of the blue, but would like to have some data first, and having seen at least a few situations where the opponent shows a tendency to fold more often, and he took a long time before implementing it. So if I see someone the first time, he's unknown, I don't know anything about him, I will probably not do that sort of thing right away.
The guy 3-bets, I 4-bet, he folds. So basically I was doing it very, very aggressively, and then I started discussing this with my students, trying to get some feedback and also understand how they felt about it, if they had already thought about it sometime. And then we just started talking, exchanging ideas. I shared with them some of the Time Mojo articles that I had seen. Unfortunately, these doesn't seem to be available anymore, but at the time they were. So we were discussing hands and talking about how we felt about these things. And then it was very interesting to talk a lot about this with my students. And then I would start to share some graphs showing my progress. My red line started to increase and all that stuff. And here you can see some of...
By the way, I hate Discord. was way better back in the day. We had like normal websites with a forum where you could just open a thread and then find the thread whenever you need it and get some information. And it's just like these long discussions in Discord. It's impossible to find something useful. It takes way more time. So I don't know why Discord is owning so hard and being everyone thinks that it's a new thing. So information gathering and getting information and learning could be done way more efficiently.
The wildest things I was doing. So check a look at that, like ace 3 off, big blind versus small blind opens, I 3-bet, he 4-bet, I jam, he folds.
I mean, at least this is also a little bit based on theory, I think, because with an ace blocker, it's way less likely that he has something like ace king and aces. So this is a good hand to do it with. I probably would like to have it suited, just to ensure that I will not overdo it all the time. But yeah, well, whatever. Yeah, good move. And if you are not up against ace king or aces, you're always doing sort of fine if you have like one overcard to his pair or something.
And I put some gifs here, like I've been a bad boy, oh my god. Pocket 2 is like,
could also do this just for image sake, because yeah, doing this video, he just does this like once in a blue moon, but now everybody thinks, oh, this guy is relentlessly 5-betting, and in reality he's not, and that's why he makes more money, because all his regular opponents watch his videos and are, okay, this guy is crazy like shit, and I have to be calling it off more light. And in reality, that's just not the case. He's just showing something that he's doing once in a blue moon.
I open the guy 3-bet, I 4-bet based on timing, he calls. This time he called, and then I check back the flop, bet the turn, he just folded. I'm an addict. Ace jack, I open, no, the guy opens, I 3-bet, he 4-bets, I jam ace jack off, pre-flop, the guy folds, and I shared this graph. As I'm experimenting with this stuff, I made 5 binds of red line in 1,600 hands. That's pretty sick. So yeah,
I think his one in showdown looked way worse, by the way. So everyone is or often people are talking about the red line, I think it is. So the non-showdown winnings, and that you have to make them positive, and that this is the greatest thing to do. But in reality, it's just like 2 different styles. I mean, it's also a trade-off. If your non-showdown winnings go up, your showdown winnings decline, and the other way around. And it also depends on the games you are playing in. I mean, if you're playing against huge calling stations, it is obviously not ideal to try the non-showdown to increase your non-showdown winnings, because these guys are calling stations and your bluffs will not work out often enough. So against these guys, you make your money in showdowns. But if you play against nitty guys that will fold too much, then you could try to exploit this tendency. So I would not say generally I'll just try to get up your non-showdown winnings. I would say just based on your opponents and be able to play a couple of styles depending on the game you're in and the opponents you are playing.
Basically, that's what I was doing, and I was really getting out of line with it. You can see here, 10-8 offsuit. Jesus Christ, guy opens, I 3-bet, the guy 4-bets, I jam, 10-8 offsuit, and he folds.
This looks like a crazy 3-bet already. Yep.
Folds. And basically, I was just getting really wild with it. I had in my mind that I needed to test it. If I was going to really figure out if this thing is true, if this thing makes sense, if there is money to be had here.
Yeah, I would also like to have some blockers for this. Because, yeah, this is a bit insane. And sooner or later, people might pick up on that. Yeah, you need a very strong timing read on the guy in order to make this. I would probably not do it that often, even if I need a very good idea that he's full of shit and go to the jam.
I need to test it. I can't be afraid of losing money. I need to test stuff, and that's exactly what I did. And you're gonna see right now how profitable that was for me. Take a look at the graph that I was able to produce not much later that I started implementing these timing tail exploits in my game. So a lot of
this also feels like a very big bragging video, and also he might be trying to sell you his shit. But anyways, yeah, the timing tail stuff probably is true, but these are selected hands. He's not showing us all the times it didn't go well. And also these graphs, always take them with a grain of salt, because you could just manipulate them at will.
A lot of discussions here, a lot of talking with my students, sharing some time mojo, etc. Some hyper-aggression, blah, blah, blah. And I believe here is the graph.
I mean, don't get me wrong, not suggesting that he is faking these things, but he could.
Yeah, so I made a post here a few weeks later where I was wondering, variance or demolishing the field? Take a look at this graph.
Nice graph. He's also playing a lot hands per hour, or is it? How much is it? So it would be hard to pay very close attention to timing tail. He's winning Edge Showdown and without Showdown. Yeah, I always was the guy who is winning a lot at Showdown and even losing slightly without Showdown. Yeah, I mean, I also intentionally selected the softest games against calling station and passive guys against who is not ideal to bluff much. But yeah, in Zoom, no limit hold'em games might be a good style, especially against the Rex.
Like, this is really, really insane. I was playing exclusively 500NL at the time, and essentially what I did here, I made $35,000 in EV, which is, in my math here, 70 buy-ins, because I was playing 500NL. So I made 70 buy-ins in 40,000 hands. That's like almost 20 big blinds per 100 hands.
I mean, this is also a very small sample, and it's not only because he found this new trick. He's probably also doing some other things well and running good
in this sample. And look at the red line. Like, the red line alone, I won 17,000 and a half, give it or take, and that's like 35 buy-ins. Yeah, so I won 35 buy-ins in the red line alone in 39,000 hands. So that's almost 10 big blinds per 100 with the red line, just exploiting timing tails. Actually, I was exploring with some other stuff as well. I was exploring with some overbets and river raise and stuff, but a lot of what was doing was timing tail exploits, and this was what I was able to do. And after that, I never looked back. I continued to this day using timing tails in my game to exploit every single opportunity that I can take advantage of. Now, if you're someone like me,
yeah, obviously use any information you can get about your opponent. Yeah, make the most of money. And if timing tells is one aspect, but yeah, I think it's not the most important thing, but it could add to your win rate, obviously.
perhaps just someone else's personal experience and some random articles in the internet are not going to be enough to convince you that this is something really valuable and that you should trust. Trust me, I was exactly the same way. Even after having this personal experience of winning a lot of money making these exploits, I still wanted to see real data. I wanted to see proof with my eyes. Like, is this really a thing? Like, can I prove this to my students or to other people that follow me? So I had this crazy idea. What if I could build a poker training environment where my students would grind in this poker training environment where I would provide them a very similar experience to the grind, and then I would track their timings inside that software. So basically there would be no other alternative, because making a software that would track timing tells in real time in Pokersites would not be possible. That's prohibited. So I thought of building a training environment where I would basically try to replicate the grind experience as much as possible. And then with
very, very interesting. I wonder if he also shares some results, or if it's just, yeah, advertising for his course or his staking or whatever it is.
in that program, I could track the timing tell of my students or whoever was playing on my program. And this way I could gather information about timings. And yes, you could say this doesn't replicate necessarily what people will do in game, but it's the closest thing that we can get. So I thought that this would be a very good idea. So using the knowledge I have gathered as a software developer before I was a poker player, I spent 4 months straight just coding. I coded and coded and coded, and I built this program, this custom training program for my students where I...
4 months? I think he's probably not telling the truth. He's probably not coding day and night. He's probably still playing. Just using some amount of time, because this would be insane to just test his theory, putting in so much work. I mean, it's not even, I mean, if guys don't use it enough, it also would be useless and don't help that much. He's probably also not getting in I mean, there are some subjects using and testing it, but when this is just data from like 5 guys, this could be heavily screwed. That's what I'm saying. And also there need to be a lot of time to be played in order to make reliable assumptions, sample size, issues and stuff.
Could track their timing tells inside a program. So I'm going to show you what this program looks like, and I'm going to show you the data that I was able to collect with my students grinding in this program. Let's take a look. So the module that I created here for my students to study with, and then that I could gather their timings, is called Grind Simulator. So the name is very self-explanatory. I wanted something that would simulate the grind experience so that my students would play, and then I would gather their timings, and then I would be able to make some analysis later. So let's take a look at how this works. So I can choose here which format, a table size that I want. Let's just do 3 max for simplification, zoom to tables, and I click start. So when I click start, the program opens up 2 tables, and you can see that it really feels very close to grinding. I can start playing here, and you can see that it's very close to a grind experience. Basically here, we're going to be playing against bots, and we're going to be getting immediate feedback on our actions. And while we're clicking the buttons here, the software is tracking every single action and every single timing on those actions. So here with a 3.
Yeah, I thought that it was playing real humans against real humans, but this is some program just against bots. Not sure if this results count. I guess somewhat, but I think this would have been better thing if it would be real humans against real humans. And people might also play more tables. LDA just 2. But it would be way cooler if he could get his guys to make an appointment, basically, like, we will all be here at 6 o'clock and then grind against each other for 2 hours and then collect the data from that.
Suited, the software tracked how long I took to make this call. So afterwards, I was able to build a separate module where I would analyze all the information from the hundreds of thousands of hands my students played on the program. So I released this program in April 2022 for my students, and since then they have played about 700,000 hands in this program, which was enough for me to make a lot of analysis here. So let's just close next big blind, and then I'm gonna show you guys some of the data that I was able to gather with this. So we can go over this MDA tab here. In this MDA tab, what we can do is we can filter for actions and then we can also filter for the timing of those actions, and the program is going to automatically calculate some stats here in the bottom. So for example, let's do the same thing that Time Mojo did. Let's take a look at RFI frequencies and then fold to 3-bet based on timing. So let's select preflop, RFI, let's focus on the button, and then let's use the same interval that Time Mojo used. So RFIs below 1.5 seconds. We want to take a look at what's the baseline RFI with unfiltered timing, and then take a look at how the fold to 3-bet changes when the RFI is very quick. So if I click this analyze button here, that's exactly what the program is going to do. It's going to track all the hands in which my students took less than 1.5 seconds to RFI, and then it's going to calculate the stats here in the bottom. Let's take a look. Okay, so these are the results that my program is showing here. On the top, we have the unfiltered stats. So these are the stats for my students when not considering what the timing they took with their RFI. So you see here that the 4 to 3 bet is 65% in 18,482 hands, very significant sample, and the 4-bet frequency is 10.5. We also have the 4 to 5 bet here. And here in the bottom, you see the filtered stats for my students here. So these are their 4 to 3 bet and 4-bet stats when their RFI timing was under.
By the way, there are also other issues that, because if you're playing against a bot, you don't have to pay any attention to your timings. Against real humans, no, but they might pick up, might use some deceptive things, take longer with good hands and stuff. This is not a thing here, so results in reality might be a bit less, smaller than here because no fake timing is used.
1.5 seconds. And this is when things start to get very interesting here. You see that the 4 to 3 bet goes down by 7%. It goes down from 65% to 58%. And the 4-bet frequency goes up. It goes from 10.5 to 14.13. So this confirms what Time Mojo showed us, and it's basically very straightforward. When people take very quick timing to act, basically they have a slightly stronger range. You see they continue more often and they 4-bet more often. And what about those very long timings? Time Mojo used 9 seconds. Let's use 9 seconds ourselves here and see what the program spits out. All right, so here are the results for when the RFI timing was 9 seconds or higher. Again, the baseline stats, 65% 4 to 3-bet and 10.5 4-bet frequency. And when my students took 9 seconds or more to RFI, and we have a pretty substantial sample here, over 2,000 instances of when they took 9 seconds or more to RFI, they folded to 3-bet 70% of the time, so 5% more often than the baseline unfiltered stats, and 12% more often compared to the very quick RFI. And the 4-bet frequency also went down by 2% from 10.5 to 8.4, and that's about a 6% difference relative to the.
Yeah, definitely a nice little video, also showing some data. Expected to not learn much, but this is would be helpful if I would still be playing poker.
Very quick RFI. So undoubtedly here we're seeing.
But if you just think about it, you would also probably come to the same conclusions, but it's always good to back up things with actual data.
A trend. Quick RFI means slightly stronger range, longer RFI means weaker range. Let's see if the same holds up for 3-betting frequencies and 4 to 4-bet frequencies as well. We can select here all 3-bet, which is going to consider all situations where my students place the 3-bet. And then we can use also the same interval as Time Mojo from 0 to 4 seconds 3-bet, and then later over 10 seconds. Let's click Analyze. Actually, I'm going to remove this filter. Let's click Analyze and see. Okay, so these are the 4 to 4-bet frequencies when my students 3-bet. We see here that when we don't consider timing, their 4 to 4-bet is about 46%, and their 5-bet frequency is about 19%. We have almost 11,000 sample here in the stat. And when they 3-bet with a quick timing under 4 seconds, we see the full to 4-bet frequency decreasing to 39%.
The timing definitely makes a difference.
So that's almost 7% difference here in the full to 4-bet, and the 5-bet increasing from 19 to 24%. So clearly here, when they're 3-betting quicker, they have a stronger range. They're folding less to 4-bet and they're 5-betting more. And then finally, let's see the 3-bets over 10 seconds and click analyze and see how that changes. Okay, so here are the results for when the 3-bet is longer than 10 seconds. Again, the baseline stats, 46% full to 4-bet.
Everything as expected.
And then 19% 5-bet. And when my students took over 10 seconds to 3-bet, they folded to 4-bet 57% of the time, and they only 5-bet 12.7%. That's a huge difference. We see here like 11% difference in fold equity relative to baseline stats. And if we compare to quick 3-bet, that was 39. So if my math is correct, that's like 17, almost 18% difference in fold equity. And also a substantial difference in the 5-bet frequency, which the baseline is 19. So it decreased by almost 7 points percentage here. And then relative to the quick 3-bets, which I think was 24, that's like almost 12% difference here relative to the 5-bet frequency. So after I saw these numbers, I was able to finally convince myself that this is a huge thing, and it made me even more pumped to get into the tables and exploit my opponents using timing tails. Of course, again, a disclaimer here is that the training environment is not exactly the same as the grinding environment, and the behavior that we see from people when they're training is not the same as when they're actually playing. I give you that, but in my opinion, this is substantial enough evidence for me to believe that
also true.
You should and I should use this into our games to make more money. If you enjoyed this video and you really think timing tails are a thing you're gonna start using to improve your game and increase your win rate, you might want to check the pinned comment that I'm going to leave right here below this video, where I'm essentially collecting people that might be interested in a timing tail course. So click on the link I'm going to leave in this comment, and there I'm going to be able to collect your email, and when my course comes up, you're gonna be one of the first people to be contacted. All right, this is it for this video. I hope you enjoyed, and if you did, I imagine you're going to like this video I separated for you right.
Okay, yeah. Nothing more to say. A good video. We actually learned something. Keep up the good work. Whatever your name is. What is his name? Saulo Costa. Yeah, good video. Yeah. Also, like, subscribe, share all the good things on my channel. And yeah, if you're watching this on YouTube, consider also subscribing on my Twitch and my Twitter. I always announce when things come online and you don't miss anything anymore. And on Twitch, it's the only way to see me live and chat with me. Nobody's chatting with me this session. So we can sign off now. Good luck at the tables. Bye-bye.